Oh my gosh. This book, it was good. It was good. It was good. Before there was a Viola Davis or an Octavia Spencer, there was a Hattie McDaniel, and she was a powerful woman. She was the first Black woman to win an Academy Award, and we're going to get into that. A trailblazer whose light was often dimmed by Hollywood's ceilings. The Queen of Sugar Hill brings her dazzling yet complicated life to center stage. Y'all, I live right outside of Atlanta, where a lot of this story has taken place, the Going with the Wind story. Believe it or not, I've never read the book. Haven't had a reason to want to read the book, honestly. But learning about Hattie McDaniel, I have a new respect for this lady. I never wanted to be an actress, but anyone who's doing it and is a Black woman, even Black man for that matter, my hat's off to you, because this is tough. And this was during this time period in the 40s and 50s. It was tough. It was tough for her. So I'm going to get into this. The Queen of Sugar Hill is by Rashonda Tate. And she actually mentioned that, I think it was her aunt or mom, someone in her life introduced her to Hattie McDaniel. And I'm glad they did, because this was good. This was good. It is a compelling historical fiction novel that reimagines the life of Hattie McDaniel, the legendary actress and singer best known for her groundbreaking Oscar-winning role as Mamie in Gone with the Wind. Yet behind the glitter of Hollywood accolades lay a life marked by racial barriers, personal heartbreak, and an unyielding spirit. Tate's novel transports readers to the 1930s and 40s Los Angeles, offering an intimate and moving portrait of a woman who broke through walls only to find herself trapped behind them. I find that the Queen of Sugar Hill to be beautifully rendered, empathetic portrait of a woman whose name is often remembered, but whose humanity is rarely explored. Rashonda Tate does a masterful job bringing Hattie McDaniel to life, not as one dimensional figure defined solely by her role of Mammy, but as a complex woman grappling with ambition, love, identity, and survival in a world determined to limit her. Tate's storytelling is rich and immersive, painting vibrant scenes of Black Hollywood, Sugar Hill, which was the infamed Black enclave in Los Angeles, and the rampant racism that Hattie faced both inside and outside the industry. The author delicately captures the tension McDaniel endured, being criticized by white America for daring to succeed, and for parts of Black America for the roles she had to accept. And I think even today, we even have these issues when we have people of color who are able to be in key roles. It's tough. From what she went through, she was trying to, seemed like she was trying to balance both ends. And it was difficult. It was really difficult. But what this author did so was that she had the ability to balance historical context with emotional renaissance. Hattie's loneliness, her fierce love for her family, and her quiet dignity pulse through the pages. Even as her career soars, readers feel a bittersweet ache of her journey, the triumphs that came at a personal cost. And it was a lot. I do have to say, I really do like the fact that Tate did not skirt around her size, considering that was an issue at one point. It was brought up that they wanted her to even gain even more weight to fit the role of the maid. And so I like the fact that she did bring out the fact that she had a love life, a vibrant love life. I'm glad that she did. And I don't know if that was fictional or if it was reality, but I'm glad she brought that out, because a lot of times people think that you have to be a certain size in order to have a vibrant love life. I feel like the novel allows Hattie McDaniel from her early dreams of stardom through her rise in a segregated Hollywood, culminating in her historic Oscar win and the emotional fallout that followed. Set against the backdrop of racism, sexism, and classism, the book explores Hattie's relationships with family, friends, lovers, and her community as she navigates fame on terms often set by others. One thing I did not know was how much of an activist that Clark Gable was. So that was very interesting, and I intend to dive deeper into that, because according to this book, she and Clark were very close. Career-wise, they were. The Queen of Sugar Hill explains not only McDaniel's public persona, but also her private battles. Her longing for respect, her complicated romantic life, her resilience against relentless criticism, and her fight to calm dignity in a world that tried to deny her humanity. So I would give this a 5 out of 5. And I don't know if I would actually purchase this book. I might. It depends. If I see it, I probably would. I think that it is a very poignant and powerful tribute to a Black pioneer who, even like I said earlier, to this day, I think a lot of Black actresses and actors are having to go through this. And this was in the 1930s and 40s. And it's 2025. We shouldn't be going through this now. But we are. We're still here. So I would recommend this book for people who like historical fiction, if you like Black history. This was my first time reading a book about the Black history of Hollywood. So that was very good. I really did enjoy that. I have to say that this was very good and that Rashonda Tate did a phenomenal job. By Her Own Design by Piper Huguley. This book was great. This book is my church book club book that we will be reviewing next week. And I cannot wait to hear what they have to say about this book, because I thoroughly enjoyed this book. By Her Own Design is a biographical novel tracing the life of African-American fashion pioneer Ann Lowe, granddaughter of slaves who rose from Jim Crow, Alabama, to designing Jacqueline Kennedy's wedding dress, and yet remained largely uncredited. The story begins in 1918, follows her abusive early marriage, mentorships with her mother and grandmother, and her migration to Tampa and then New York City. Over many decades, she faced racism, personal tragedy, and professional erasure, even while draping high society in silk and lace. Now, this book, she grew up around her mother and her grandmother, and they taught her everything that she knows. She would make flowers that looked so real, even by the time she was 12. She ended up, this guy who claimed he knew her dad kept hanging around. Now, they said he was in his 40s. I don't know. But he messed around and talked her into marrying him because he was a tailor. And he needed someone to help him sew suits. In true fashion, he got her away from her mom and her grandmother. decided to not let her be near them unless her mom had a big commission. Her grandmother told her to drink a certain tea to keep her from getting pregnant because they did not want her to have any kids by this man. But she ended up being defiant and decided to have a child by him anyway. Named him Arthur. He was a very good son to her. After she started getting more recognition in Montgomery, her husband, I think that's where they were, in Montgomery. Her husband decided that he wanted her to move to Dothan, Alabama, to be near his folks. Well, that meant that she was losing all of her clients, which men do that. They will do that. And so she ended up going to his home. His mom told him, she was like, look, I had to get rid of his daddy. So if you want to make it, you're going to have to leave. And then guess what? She took the next thing out of Dothan, Alabama to Tampa. This white lady helped her out. I can't remember her name, but this lady was so kind to her. She gave her and her son somewhere to stay. She had like 3 girls. And she was sewing clothes for them. She was sewing clothes for the youngest one's doll. And it was just a beautiful situation. The lady actually encouraged her to go to New York City to go to design school because she said that if you get some credentials behind your name, you can charge more. She did. She was able to get Arthur's grandmother his paternal grandmother to keep him. And she did go through she went through racism at the school. I'm not going to share what happened, but she did. And actually, some of the things that she did at the school, I thought surely it was going to come back around later on in the book, but it didn't. But it was okay. It was okay because she ended up meeting Jacqueline Kennedy. She ended up making her dress. And she was being well honored throughout the industry because people always wanted their debutante dresses, wedding dresses, prom dresses. So here's the review. Huguley's storytelling is both intimate and sweeping. Anne's journey earns every ounce of respect. Absolutely. It's steeped in trauma, but propelled by resilience and artistry. The first half dives deeply into her childhood and early career, rich with emotional and historical detail. However, the later years, which include the renowned Kennedy Commission, feel brisker, like a curtain call after a full finale. Overall, it is a beautifully rendered tribute to a hidden figure in fashion history. 5 out of 5. I probably wouldn't purchase the book, but I have never heard of this lady before, and I'm glad that I was introduced to her from my church book club. I think by her own design. It was a very good book. Awesome for Black History Month. And if you're into historical history, African American historical history, this would be a perfect book for that. My final thoughts. By Her Own Design shines a vibrant tribute to perseverance, creativity, and legacies suppressed by systematic racism. It reminds me of how many Black women's stories remain unspoken. A moving read for history buffs, creative souls, and anyone intrigued by the power of art to transcend injustice. So if you decide you want to read this book, it's 384 pages. And if you decide to listen like I do, it is 13 hours. Loved it. Absolutely.